The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
1933, there was a phenomenally wealthy family that lived in Germany. And in 1933, there were two types of German Jews. There were those that saw the handwriting on the wall and realized that there are dangerous times coming. And there were those that said, like we're saying in the United States these days, it's just a passing fade. A fading phase that it'll pass over. We've always had, ups and downs with anti-Semitism. It's going to be okay. But this wealthy family was very concerned with what they saw, the rise of the Nazi Party, the new anti-Semitic winds that were blowing through Germany, and they decided they don't want to be part of this country. So they liquidated all of their assets. They sold off their buildings and their properties and their businesses, and they decided to move to Holland, which was a much safer and secure environment. The way that they were going to transfer their entire wealth was, at that point, the strongest currency was the ruble. So the father went and he took all the Deutsche Marks, all the German currency, and he converted it into rubles, and he sent a massive convoy of rubles to Holland where they could start over, and they would convert the rubles back into the currency of the Netherlands. About a day or two in, he picks up the newspaper one morning and he looks at the financial section, and Russia had decided to issue a new currency. And he had a day or two to cash in your old currency, and after that, it was rendered worthless. His entire currency was on a convoy somewhere, nowhere, who knows where. It was 1933, there's no way to identify something, and he realized he was a ruined man. This convoy would arrive in Holland, and the paper, the money wouldn't be worth the paper that it was printed on. And he was devastated. He went from being a phenomenally wealthy person to being a person who lost 95% of his wealth. He was embarrassed to go to Holland, where people would hear about the story. He was embarrassed to stay in Germany, where everyone would hear about the story. And he didn't know what to do. And him and his wife said, we have to run away. We have to go somewhere where no one knows us. We'll take our jewelry. We'll take some of the valuables that we have. We'll try to start that way, and we'll start anew. And they decided to go to Palestine, quote unquote, to Eretz Yisrael, and to start anew. And they did. And this was what saved themselves and their family. Had they stayed in Holland, by 1943, 80% of the Dutch Jews had been murdered by the Nazis. They for sure would have been amongst them, probably. But it's because the currency was devaluated, and they lost 95% of their property, that ultimately they continued to thrive and prosper and have children and grandchildren and a whole dynasty of a family. And if you think about it, at the moment of the devastation of the devaluation, when everything that they had was worth nothing, they probably were so broken. Hashem, how could you do this to me? Kiyonaftabi, how could you do this, Rabbi Shalom? I don't understand his chemecharef u'megadev. But years later, when they realized that this is what saved their family, everything changed. In the rear view mirror of life, you see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But sometimes we can't see it in the moment. Let's look at our own lives. If we keep our eyes open, and we keep our ears open, and we constantly try to see Yad Hashem, sometimes it's hard to identify it at the moment, but ultimately we will see it.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org